In my early 40s, though, I kind of had what I consider a crisis of faith. I never really doubted my faith very much, ever. But I started to just experience this when I went to church, that it just seemed too narrow, the beliefs that I was hearing. And it wasn't that I stopped believing in God, but I just had this kind of expansion. So that was definitely like it felt like a crisis, but it was really more of a breaking open and an expansion of seeing God in a bigger way, seeing how God could work through anyone and everything and any religion, and that really now I believe that any path could lead to God, and that we could all connect on a spiritual level, that there's not just one level or one way, I should say. So that was a huge moment of expansion.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Moments of Aha. Please subscribe if you haven't already. We're so happy that you're here to join us, and we want you to understand that nobody is coming to save you. But the good news is we believe that everything that you're looking for is already inside of you. We truly believe that you are the hero of your own life and your own journey. So the intention of this show is to introduce you to everyday heroes, people just like you and I. These individuals have developed these internal powers and qualities that we're all born with, to the point where they have become superpowers to align with their inner hero. So today's everyday hero is a warm, welcoming soul. She is wise, uplifting, and intuitive. She has spent 9+ years as a director of student affairs at UC Irvine, making an impact on the students who are the future of our world. She is a wife of nearly 25 years and a mother. In her past life, she sang professional jazz, was a worship leader in the church, and now she helps guide women find fulfillment in their lives after 40. She is a dear friend of mine with a beautiful mission and fellow coach, Julie Aird. Julie, what's going on? Welcome to the show.
Oh, Jonathan, I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you so much for the beautiful, warm welcome and introduction. And I just couldn't be more excited to be joining you today and talking about all this good stuff with you.
I love it. Yeah, I'm so grateful for you as well. You're so amazing. Just like I said, such a warm, welcoming presence every time that we connect, and I love that. So I'm going to dive right in. Obviously, the show is called Moments of Aha, and what that represents is moments of awakening. These moments where you're living one way and you have this epiphany, and all of a sudden you start living life a different way. And that could be just a brief moment in time where all of a sudden it changed, or it could be some sort of a process. But I'm curious, what are some moments of aha that you've experienced that stick out?
Wow. I grew up in the church. I grew up as an evangelical Christian. I was very devout, and I went to church. I was a worship leader. I even went to a Christian college where I got a minor in Bible, and then I worked at that Christian college. And my whole life, I was a churchgoer. I was a deacon. I was a worship leader. And I really, truly loved God with all my heart, and always sought God, spirit for the direction of my life, and wanted to be a follower, of, and really, Christ was my example of how to live, and so that was my path. In my early 40s, though, I kind of had what I consider a crisis of faith. I never really doubted my faith very much, ever. But I started to just experience this when I went to church, that it just seemed too narrow, the beliefs that I was hearing. And it wasn't that I stopped believing in God, but I just had this kind of expansion. So that was definitely it felt like a crisis, but it was really more of a breaking open and an expansion of seeing God in a bigger way, seeing how God could work through anyone and everything and any religion, and that really now I believe that any path could lead to God, and that we could all connect on a spiritual level, that there's not just one level or one way, I should say. So that was a huge moment of expansion for me. A big aha. Is that what you were looking for, Jonathan?
Yes, absolutely. And I resonate with that so much. And, for myself, one of the superpowers I actually had for you is spirituality. Because ever since I known you, you have this beautiful connection with the Creator and with Spirit. And you definitely embody that in your life with every interaction. And, it brings up a lot of emotion for me because I grew up in the church and I was very dedicated. And at one point, I thought I was going to be a pastor or youth pastor or something of those sorts. And I went every week. I pray every day. And when I had one of my biggest moments of aha was my childhood friend passing away. It broke me open and asking really more deeper questions about God and who God is and how God works and who Jesus is and what's the point of all of this? I don't understand, and I really relate to what you said because what it did was, and I wouldn't consider myself, Christian or even religious anymore, but it broke me open to a point where I live and embody what God is now for the first time in my life more than ever, because I took God out of the box that I confined God as, or, in a spirit. And so I'm curious, and I think this is very important because I think a lot of individuals are on the crossroad right now that grew up in the church that, don't want to go outside of the church because, what I was told my whole life is that you don't know what you're tapping into. You don't know about all those other religions. This is the only truth and the way to the light, right? And in that, it creates so much fear around spirituality. So what kind of space could you create for individuals that have been traditionally in a church that are actually seeking more of that intimate connection with the Creator, but are kind of afraid to go into that next evolution of their own spirituality?
Yeah. What kind of space could I create? I think if I was working with someone, if I was coaching someone about their spirituality, because I'm also a spiritual director, Jonathan, I went through training to do that and to basically partner with people and walk with them through their faith journey. And really, I had a spiritual director that held space for me, in a non-judgmental way. And I created opportunities or environments, people, groups where I felt safe to explore and in a non-judgmental way. And I think what I've learned through all of this, there was another aha I wanted to share, if that's okay. Kind of another significant moment in my life. And it was when I learned to really listen to my heart. And I learned the difference between living in my head and living in my heart. And I really truly believe that we are all spiritual beings. We have a connection to God, source, universe, spirit, whatever word you use, but that indwelling is in us. It doesn't mean that we are equal to God, but we are connected and we have God's spirit within our hearts. And when we are able to tune into that, we know the truth for us. We know our path. And it was really a process of me just listening to my own heart and knowing that that was really God speaking to me. And it might, I guess, also learning about non-judgment, right? That I think, well, there's a lot of topics here. This could kind of go off into a whole lot of branches, Jonathan, but one of the things that I learned is as we grow in consciousness, as we grow as spirit beings, we grow from a place of duality to a place of more inclusiveness. And in the place of duality, that's where there is just one right way or one wrong way. And so part of that expansion that I experienced was knowing that that God could work in multiple ways, and that God could work in any religion or any faith, and that there really wasn't one right or wrong way. And that concept just kind of blew my mind, but it really made so much sense to me, because it's like, to say that now my way is the only way and that somebody else can't connect to God through another way, like, that's going back to duality. And so I think I got off a little bit from answering your question, but I I know for myself that part of this whole process of growing in my faith has been tuning into my own heart and listening to my own inner guidance, which I believe is God. And instead of listening to everyone around me, and then also releasing that idea that there is only one way, and it doesn't mean that what another person's truth is, or what they're experiencing, isn't true for them. It completely could be true for them. That's where they're at on the journey. That's where they're learning. That's that's their path, right? Um, does that
I,
answer the
yeah,
question, kind of?
no, absolutely. And I'll love to kind of bring it all together in a sense of
Okay.
how I heard it. But because another superpower that I have for you that you just mentioned is creating safe spaces, and I think that that's extremely important, is to be able to create safe space.
Mhm.
And when I say safe space, it's a space where there is no judgment, there is acceptance, and there is love. And that's what makes you such an amazing coach, is because people are willing to open up to you because there isn't that judgment. And so in that, what I hear is, one is creating safe space for yourself and not judging yourself, to explore, and that it's okay
Yes.
to question, it's okay to explore, and also get out of the space of duality, of thinking that it has to be one way or another. And I think
Mhm.
that's one of the challenges where, if I was going to imagine, and what I had was um, letting go of the construct that I was taught my whole life, and
Yes.
instead of letting that shed and then tapping in, rather than the head of what the construct is up here, I'm actually feeling what that is. And that's where the intimate relationship lies. And, we all get that whisper inside of our head and our hearts. And we get, these visions or dreams sometimes and whatnot. And, every step of the way that's been there since the very beginning. But sometimes we don't pay attention to it. And so what I call that is the inner hero. And that's what all of this is all about for a Heroes Academy. Is another way of saying that is, listen to your inner God, because God is only personal for you, and God will tell you exactly who God is: universe, source energy, creator of all that is, whatever you want to call it. But the whisper gets louder and louder the more you align with that inner hero. And so so I'll just really just tighten it a little bit, is, one, creating a safe space of non-judgment for yourself and others. So not judging other people's experiences as, their one truth, means that it has to be yours. Their truth is their
Correct.
truth. Your truth is your truth.
Yeah.
Two is tapping in from the head into the heart and really listening into your internal whisper of what it's telling you.
Yes. Yes. So true. So true. You encapsulated it beautifully.
Thank you. Yeah. And so with creating safe spaces, just to widen that gap even more, because again, I do believe that it's something that we all possess, but not all of us knows how to cultivate it into a superpower. And I think it's really important, not just for ourselves, but others. But what did you have to become aware of inside of yourself to be able to create safe spaces for yourself and others?
Oh, wow. I think know I had to go through my own journey of knowing how important it was for me to not be judged, because I grew up, like many of us, learning that there's certain ways to do things, there's certain ways not to do things. You got to look like this, you got to, and I was a good student and I was a performer. I sang and I danced. And so I was very much about performance in my life to kind of like build my self-esteem, feel good about myself, get strokes from my parents. Um, and to and then when I went through some difficult things in my college years, in my young adult years, um, I think shedding that perfection kind of image and first for myself, like acknowledging within myself that I had some struggles, that I didn't have to hide them. And when I found safe spaces to be able to share those, whether it would be in a group or a therapeutic setting or something, that felt so good to me. It felt so good to be honest. And even spiritually, I remember being so mad at God in my mid 20s because the relationship that I was in didn't work out. And kind of learning through that experience that even God wasn't going to leave me, like I still had this connection. I still felt God's presence even when I was mad. It was like that was a huge turning point for my faith, because it was like I could really be honest, I could really be real. And that my faith was now not based on being a good girl. There was this constant love that was going to be in my life, unconditional, no matter what, and whatever I did. And so I think it was experiencing it for myself through God and through others, that then I was able to start to give that to other people. And I wanted to create that space for other people. And so I worked in a university setting for 30 years. I wanted to help students. And now as a life coach, I I do want to create that non-judgmental, safe space for people to explore, because I do truly believe people have their own answers. And um, sometimes we don't even give ourselves that freedom to be honest with ourselves. It's like sometimes it has to be extended from someone else. And then when we have that invitation, we can step into true honesty and authenticity and acceptance of who we are.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Permission is huge, right? And
Mhm.
um, we're so quick to give permission to others, but not ourselves.
Mm.
And we put this mask of perfection on, and I relate to that. I did all the right things growing up. I did all the right things I should do, and created the white picket fence family and everything like that, and
Mm.
realizing that it was a mask the whole time, and I had to
Ah.
let go of the mask and really be authentic and honest to Jonathan for the first time in his life. And that was and has been, the hardest part of the journey, is to really tap into that heart, like what you said, and really feel like, who is Jonathan without all the constructs that's influenced him, and all the perfection that he seeks, and the approval that he's looking for, and all the masks, and layer by layer by layer take off the masks. And you're right, 100%. It's to provide and give permission to yourself to not judge yourself, and that it's okay to not be perfect. All of a sudden you can provide that space for others through the self exploration and journey that you've actually experienced.
Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
And I was just going to share that I went through a powerful training that helped me do that process, like what you're talking about, taking off all the masks, taking off all the things that protect us from or keep us from that true inner light shining out. And um, once we go through that process, and there's many ways to do that, but once we do that and we start to really tap into our divinity, our true essence, we learn that we truly are lights, and we truly are amazing as we are in our own unique, beautiful way. We are God's representation on this earth in human form, you know? All those masks and everything are just ways of kind of covering that light, you know? So I believe that even though sometimes I think my ego mind tricks me into thinking I have to become something better, like that this process of self-growth is about becoming, it's really not. It's really about a removal process of what I'm not and just allowing the true light to shine out of who I truly am, because I'm whole, perfect, and complete in my essence.
Mm. Yeah, I resonate so deep with that. And I had a profound weekend this last weekend that I'll share shortly about it. But it was a 12-hour workshop because we are supposed to do this interview actually last week, but I ended up just jumping into, this workshop that was a 12-hour workshop created by Humans I Trust. And it's the first one here in the United States. And it was down in Venice Beach. And it was a bunch of spiritual entrepreneurs here and leaders at this workshop. And it was so profound. And what exactly everything that you just said is that it's not actually getting better. It's not actually developing, or I need to go somewhere else, or, it's shedding off the layers and getting to the core of what all of this actually is. And what I discovered, is actually what I remembered. What I remembered is that we are spirit, and just as you are spirit, Julie, the only thing that's different between you and I is the vessel. That's the only thing that separates us. But the spirit is the one spirit. And so it was a remembering of what power is inside of me and what kind of love is inside of me. And that love is consistent and eternal. And it was the same as when I came into this physical world and when I leave. And it's the same exact perfection of what it was then and what it will be then. And everything in between is just this illusion of what we've put ourselves through, of all the suffering and all the cycles and all the beliefs that hold us apart from just the wholeness of what spirit is. And so, yeah.
Beautiful. I
Yeah.
didn't know our conversation was going to go this way, but it's so beautiful. Can we talk more about this stuff again? I love talking about this spiritual stuff, and I completely agree with you. We come from spirit, we go back to spirit. We're having a human experience, and really, I think we are here to bring the light to the world, and we're learning how to do that. How to do that, how to shed those layers so that we can just be the light.
Yeah, 100%. I love these are the conversations that I live for, that lighten me up, that that more conversations like this, I think it's not so black and white as what people sometimes feel like it is, and they're scared to jump into the space. But these are my favorite conversations, and it's so expansive and so enlightening, and it empowers at least myself and the individuals that I speak to. And it's almost like I'm leaving the conversations like vibrating up here, like my skin's vibrating. And there's a reason for that, I think. And I think if people taste that a little bit, they'll understand really that the only way to find that is through yourself, going inside, looking this way, rather than externally so much. But I am going to shift directions a little bit. The third superpower I have for you is courage. And life is challenging at times. And courage does not mean that it's absent of fear. No, courage is actually, is overcoming the fear with courage is overcoming fear with conscious action. And so tell me about a time where you've had to tap into this courage and overcome fear so that you can live a more inspired, fulfilled life?
Well, there's been multiple times, but the biggest one was last year. But I would say that other things in my life, like when I left the guy that I was supposed to marry in my 20s, that was totally listening to my heart. I didn't have a good head reason to not, but it was like just knowing. And then when I decided I wanted to sing jazz professionally, that was a total heart longing, and it felt like a huge stretch, because I'd only sung in the church but last year I chose to leave my 30-year profession to start my own business. And that was a huge leap, probably the biggest one I've taken to date. um, I I've shared this with other people, but the image that kept coming to me last year was this scene in Indiana Jones movie, the third movie, where he's at the end of his trek going for the Holy Grail. And he gets to this point in the trek where there's a total drop off and he can't get to the next mountain across, or it's just this big chasm between him and where he's got to go. And he has this inner knowing that it's a leap of faith. And so he takes this step out onto the air where there's nothing. And then suddenly a bridge appears. Such a powerful scene in the movie. But that's how I felt last year. Like I was taking this huge step into the unknown. And it was, and I didn't have I couldn't see the bridge, The bridge has appeared since I've taken that step. There has been a net for me. I can't say that I'm still not scared. I think I feel scared almost every day, but this year, and then the way I wanted to grow my business was through speaking to groups. And then we had COVID. And so I took another huge leap, which was to start getting online. And I created a Facebook group this year, and I've been going live weekly to share content with these women. The group is called Finding Fulfillment After 40. And so, I've done so much stretching this year. And so I guess what I'm saying is that I continue to feel that fear. At the same time, though, I would never be experiencing, like, I would never be getting to be the full expression of who I'm being if I hadn't done that. If I had stayed in that job where I felt overwhelmed, burnt out, like I wasn't really using my gifts anymore. It had served me for a long time, but near the end, it wasn't anymore. And it was like, this was my next step. And I really tried to stay there. I tried to create a coaching job within the university. It didn't work out. So I almost felt like the universe was just pushing me out, things were happening that were almost comical. It was so obvious that I was not supposed to be there anymore. So I was getting pushed off the ledge for sure. But we always have that choice. We always have that choice. And I think I would rather live with that. When I say fear, it's almost more like a butterflies feeling in the stomach, like you're going on a roller coaster or something. It's like you're excited but scared. I would rather live with that than, if that's the worst thing that happens from it, then this feeling of stuckness, resentment, dragging, like, oh my God, when I get up in the morning, I got to go to that job again, I feel like life is just too short, and I really do want to be the full expression of who I am. And I do want to shine my light. I do want to make a contribution. And so it requires stepping out of your comfort zone. I wish there was another way. Trust me. I wish it was easy, but I feel like, I've come to know that whenever we are expanding in any way, we're going to experience kind of a resistance, a fear, and that's actually our clue that we're on the right path. Surprisingly enough, as uncomfortable as that feels, that's actually our sign that we are doing it. Because if we didn't feel anything, we wouldn't really be growing. If we didn't feel, if we completely feel comfortable and we don't feel that nervousness ever, well, we're probably not expanding or growing very much. That's my little soapbox on that.
I love it. I think that there's some really important keys in that. And, I'm going to integrate courage with faith as a synchronized superpower together for a second. And, the scripture of you have not because you ask not, right? And so with faith, there is this asking that needs to happen. But there's more to the equation to having true faith, and that's taking courageous action after you ask. And so when I hear that Indiana Jones story, you've asked for something, and then you have to have this immense faith of taking a step that you don't actually know what's next, but you have this faith and you're taking courageous action that you're going to follow this, and the step and the bridge appears for you. And I think that that's so important that people get caught up in, is that I'm waiting for that next step to arrive and it might not ever show up, right?
Yes.
And the second key that I hear is, so starting before you're ready. But then the second key that I hear in that is finding out a way to get out of your comfort zone, because that is what stretches us. Because who we are today and who we've been, we know. That's certain. We know exactly what to expect. So it feels good. But if you want something bigger out of your life, if you want to ask more of yourself, and then obviously you don't know how to get over there. And so everything that you've ever known and whoever you've always been no longer fits in that program to moving forward. And so it's uncomfortable shifting out of what you've known into what you don't know. And so that stretching process and being uncomfortable is so important for people to understand, is because sometimes they're like, oh, this feels so weird inside of me. So obviously this is not for me. I'm going to go back over here. And that's not the case. It's like, let me double down, let me have my faith and take a step off this cliff, I just love that. And I want you to speak directly to, let's say that there's a woman out there and she's been living the same routine for many, many years, and she gets inspired. She has these ideas, and then she gets gung-ho about it, and she wants to really dive deep into this thing that she's inspired about. But after a month, maybe 2 months, that new excitement drifts away, and the courage of actually stepping into that space and committing all of a sudden vanishes, and she goes back to her comfort zone until the next idea comes and she does it again, and it's the same cycle. What would you say to this woman to be able to have the courage to really go for what she's excited about by, with the escaping of the traditional routine that she's been doing for years upon years? How does she find that fulfillment?
Great question. I mean, I have a suggestion on what would help her continue her path, but I also feel that there is within each of us, we can't make someone else change. Someone else can't do it for us. And it's almost like we have to have enough pain. Pain pushes. Vision pulls, those are some words I've heard before, but it's like, if we don't have enough discomfort in kind of what the non-stretching experience is, like in the stuckness, we probably won't change. I don't know what that is, Jonathan, in certain people, that some people are willing, and then some people are willing to stay stuck for a really long time. And I know as a coach, sometimes I look at them and I think, don't you want something more? So I think it's got to come from a desire inside. And then in addition to that, I really think getting support is super important, because, none of the great leaders in our world and the great athletes and the great, all the people that have been super successful, they've all had coaches. I mean, you think of an Olympian, right? They could never get anywhere, where they've been, without their coach. And when they win their medals, that's the first person they thank usually, right? Their family, the people that supported them. So we are not in this alone. And when you have a desire to do something, it's pretty tough to do it all on your own. I was recently down in San Diego, and I was near La Jolla, and it was such a beautiful visual what I was watching. We went to the coast where they have this paragliding airport or launching place, I guess. I think it's paragliding. Am I using the right word, Jonathan?
Yeah, it's paragliding.
There's paragliding, but there's also hang gliding. Okay, well, that's another thing. But paragliding. Okay, so these are people that you kind of sit in this thing with the umbrella, and the first time you have to actually jump off the cliff, and then the wind takes you, right? But the first time you do this, in fact, I think you have to have like 25 flights or 25 hours. You don't go by yourself, right? You don't jump off the cliff by yourself, and you have that professional with you that's guiding you. And so that's the image I like to use and share with women, is that don't do this by yourself. I mean, I have a coach, I have a business coach, I have a mentor, I have a group, I've got like all kinds of support. Like, none of us can do this by ourselves, I think. And so, so get the support, to do it, because I think that provides accountability, that helps us to do it, to show up and keep going. It helps us when we're down to know, to have somebody go, hey, this is part of the process. And, I mean, there's so much that a coach can provide. So that's my other suggestion with that. Don't do it by yourself. Because we're not meant to do everything alone. That's a myth,
Yeah, it's a myth that people hold true, and they think that they're brave and courageous. For myself, at least, this is my story for many years, that I have to do everything on my own, and but that was a lie. And it actually takes a lot more courage to step out and ask for help and join new communities, join new support systems, get a coach or get counseling, and all these different things actually takes courage. It's not weak whatsoever. And so, a couple of things that I hear for that individual is, one is your discomfort bringing you more pain, or let's say it this way, your comfort zone. Is it bringing you more pain than actual comfort at this point? And in that, at what does it cost for you to actually move forward into something that does inspire you? That's the first thing that I heard. The second thing that I heard is getting the support. I think there was something else in that too, actually, but the support was something that really spoke loud, because we are the 5 people and ideas we spend the most time with. And so if we don't have that new upgraded support system, then we're going to go back into that vibrational realm of what we've known our whole life. And we'll continue that cycle because it's the familiar space, right? So to have new ideas, have new people help you, have coaches that's been there, done that to help guide you through this, I think is really important to upgrade to that next level for anybody.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you need people that have been there and that have the vision, that know that what you're experiencing is normal. And like, okay, so you're trying to step out of your comfort zone, and like you said, the first kind of instinct when you feel the discomfort, whenever you're going to step out of your comfort zone, is to retreat and go, oh no, that doesn't feel good, so that must not be it. And to have people support, whoever it is, right there at that place where you're stepping out of your comfort zone, to go, yep, you are in the exact right space. This is what it is. Having the vision to maybe when we don't have the vision, you know, to say, yep, you are in the right place. This is the path. You're going to get there. I had to go through this. You're in the perfect space, all that kind of stuff. I think that can be really, really helpful. It's like giving us new eyes, right? When we don't have the eyes yet, because we haven't been there yet.
Yeah, definitely. And so I'm curious, if you're going to choose a internal superpower for yourself, what would it be?
Wow. One internal superpower. I think faith. I think that's it. And I have to tell you that is, it's funny. It's like a two-edged sword. It's like sometimes I feel like that's the thing that I struggle with the most. And yet, I don't know why I just said that, but that's what came to me, because it's like that's also the faith is also what has propelled me in life to choose the partner that was right for me, choose the profession that was the most fulfilling for me, choose the spiritual path that was the most in alignment for me. And I have a beautiful family. I have a beautiful husband, a beautiful son, a beautiful life. And it was because I made some difficult choices along the way in my life and said, I'm not going to go the way that maybe I was brought up to think I have to do it, or the way that society's telling me to do it. I'm going to listen to my heart. I'm going to trust that listen to my own internal compass. And that has brought me fulfillment in life. So, how's that?
I love it. I mean, I love that you chose that for yourself, because it definitely shines bright. And
Mhm.
I couldn't agree more. It's funny that
Mhm.
sometimes our internal superpower, that is our strength, is also one of our biggest kryptonites, I guess you can say, in the
Mm.
sense that, you know, in this physical realm, there is so much duality, and when we allow the duality to sink in something like that, then obviously it can either lead us forward, or when
Yeah.
it's out of balance and not in harmony, all of a sudden it actually is what you're missing. And so I think that's a really cool analogy, that it's a double-edged sword for the faith. And I do have one more question. And if you had one lesson or one truth that you have learned in your life that you want to leave behind for your loved ones, what would be that
Mm.
one lesson or
Mm.
truth that you've learned?
Mm. Oh, I'm getting like goosebumps when you ask me that question. It makes me like kind of teary a little bit. I really think it's listening to our heart. Um, it's so important to me that I actually named my podcast Heart Led Living.
Mm.
Um, when once I learned what living from my heart, um, what it meant. I mean, I'd heard those terms a lot in my life. You're in your head, you're in your heart. But when I really got clear on what that means, it shifted everything for me. It allowed me to it allowed me to, whenever I listened to my heart and I stepped in, I felt fulfillment. I felt peace. I felt joy. I felt more alive. I felt truly who I was. I felt like my life was having meaning. Um, it's kind of like it was just like this explosion inside. It took me out of like this robotic living of, you know, just day to day and being hard on myself and judgment, and it just opened me up to taking risks, to loving fully, living life to the fullest, and really just enjoying each day, living each day fully, right? And so that's what I want to share with other people. That's what I want to teach other people, how to live from their heart. What does that mean? What does that look like? And when they start to take those steps and start to have the experience of fullness in their life from that, they don't ever want to go back.
Yeah, I love that answer. And it's something that I'm learning in my life right now. I'm so up here. I'm so good at explaining how I feel, but I'm not good at feeling how I feel. And so, which is a big difference. I have to sink in and take a breath and really embody where I'm at. And it changes everything when you're able to live within your heart and get out of your head so often, as this is one of the most powerful tools in this whole entire universe. This is even more powerful. And so I love that, Julie. I love you. I so much appreciate your time and all that you are and the mission that you're on and all the women that you're helping right now, that especially in this time during, this pandemic, how many humans on this world are in a transition and really trying to look for what's next for them. How do they find fulfillment? They weren't as happy as they thought they were. And 2021 is going to be the most beautiful year I think that's ever existed on this planet. And it's because of leaders like you and that are doing this light work for people and just being a guide. And that's all. And you're an amazing coach. And so, again, I'm just so thankful for you. And if people do want to reach out to you and connect with you, how would they do that?
They could go to my website, which is julieaird.com. My last name is AIRD. So that's JULIEAIRD.com. Or they could email me at julie@julieaird.com. And I would love to, I have a contact information form on my website, or they can email me directly, but I can hook them up with my podcast, which is Heart Led Living. If they're a woman that is over 40 and they want more fulfillment, I'd love them to join my group, my Facebook group, Finding Fulfillment After 40. So those are some different ways they can reach me. And my Facebook group is where I'm probably providing the most content right now, going live weekly, doing workshops and challenges that are free. So this is a great way to tap into your heart and on your path to fulfillment. That's where you can find me.
Cool. Thank you so much, Julie. And for everyone else, if you haven't subscribed, please do. That's how you support our mission and get these words out there to the masses. And I'm sending you all lots of love, blessings, and until next time, align with your inner hero. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.